Hey guys, how you doing? All right, so just wanted to go over my trades for today. I don't have a whole lot to report today. I didn't trade very well. Well, I shouldn't say that. I traded fine. I just didn't have a lot of correct ideas. I took a bunch of paper cuts. End of the day, small red actually. Um, it's only my second red day in January, so I'm pretty happy about that. Um, didn't do any significant damage. The way I like to gauge my days is, pick a number for yourself. You know what you're risking on each trade, right? You have that all planned out, or you should at least. Um, and you kind of know, like when you have bad trades, you know how they end up. You know what you're typically losing per trade. It should be fairly consistent if you're, trading correctly and stopping out where you should. It should be a series of manageable losses. So for me, I gauge it. If I have a red day and I had a bunch of bad trades, if it's under $1,000, to me that's all right. I probably maybe took a few paper cuts that I shouldn't have, but it tells me that I probably, obeyed most of my stops and didn't get in too much trouble. So you should try and pick a threshold for yourself. Anytime you have a red day, um, pick a manageable number and make sure your red days are staying below that. It's the big red days. That's what kills us. Most of us are pretty good traders, um, or we're good enough, or we can have more winning days than losing days. But it's just the problem is, a lot of times the losing days are a lot bigger than the green days. Therein lies the problem for most. Um, so always keep a gauge for yourself, and any way you have to do it. That's the way I do it. Um, all right, so let's look at some of these. First was UVXY. Um, I had a long bias on this right out of the gate. I just think the market is, up too much. I know that's not a reason. I say this to my guys all the time. That's not a reason to short something because it's up too much. And that's kind of what I did today here on the SPY, um, trading UVXY. So I deserved these, both of these paper cuts I deserve. I was trying to fight the trend. That's like my first and only rule when trading an ETF or like gold, like Nugget, is don't fight the trend. Do not try and be a hero and try and pick reversals. It's just not worth it. You know, if you're trading ETFs, the trend is your friend. It's so true, and I know that. So I screwed up there today trying to fight the trend twice. No serious damage. Always stuck to plan and stopped out very shortly after both times for two minimal paper cuts. So that's not the end of the world. But just overall, that's a rule you should have in your arsenal if you don't already. If you're trading ETFs, the trend is your friend. Try and catch the meat of the move. Don't go trying to predict the trend change. So that was UVXY. DRIES. 2 days in a row now. We screwed this thing up. I closed the trade pretty much flat. I actually traded this pretty well today. It was bad timing over here because this is right when I went to lunch. I went to grab lunch and I set some stops. I went to lunch around over here and I set some stops right around red to green, some stop market orders, and it just popped that time and it triggered a couple of my orders. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought it was going to stay sub VWAP, um, but clearly it did not want to do that. But initial entries were good. I saw this thing fading out of the gate, and I didn't catch it immediately because I was watching some other stuff, and you never want to chase this thing. So I couldn't justify entering anywhere in here. So I waited. Then we got the pop, the classic pop. DRIES always pops and it always fades. It's becoming like really like clockwork. Um, so I started in near red to green and popped a little further or whatever. Um, to me, anytime DRIES is popping like this, I'm adding into it. When I know this name inside and out. I've read every filing on this company. I know all about exactly what's happening. A lot of people do, but I really know a lot about this company, and it's really hard for me to stop out. If I'm shorting into a spike on DRIES, it would be really, really difficult for me to stop out, and that's not the best thing in the world either. Your bias can affect you sometimes, and I definitely have a bias on this name. So it popped a little further after my red to green entries, and I added. And then we got the classic fade. I was really a bummer. I set those orders because I had to step away from the computer for a little bit, but I didn't. If they didn't, if that didn't trigger, if this little pop here didn't happen, I would like to think that I would have had some patience and held. I probably would have covered into this wash, knowing me. Um, but either way, I got a little bit of a couple covers off initially for a little bit of profit, and then these covers here were pretty much just flat. I closed this trade small green, so that was a little bit of a bummer. You remember yesterday too, I did the same thing. I covered too soon, and it kept fading. I gotta have less faith in this thing. I have way too much faith in this thing to rebound and squeeze. That's just a complete, piece of shit. So tomorrow's another day. HK, this thing, I had a really nice trade on it this morning. We waited. We were watching it early, and then we finally got the climactic volume, the volume increase here. So that's what made me want to start in. Also, 10 is a nice level here on the daily, right? All into here. First peak over here, and another one a little higher. But 10 is a nice psychological number. It's going from single digits to double digits. So that was a nice level on the daily to short into initially. That was the plan, risking 10 over under. Then it rebounded. It got pretty crowded, I guess. This is one of the few stocks that was moving with any range and volume, really. Today was a pretty crappy day. This is one of the few moving, and it was actually a market leader. It was a top list if you were looking at your DOS top list or any gap scanner or green scanner. This is one of the first names you saw. So it got very crowded, clearly. And so it rebounded, and I was looking at it again here once it popped over VWAP. But fortunately, I waited and reshorted here. Pretty much same exact trade. Same idea, shorting just below 10, thinking 10 over under. Then I was just kind of watching it in here, and it just felt the bid kept refreshing. It just felt like, all right, here we go. It wants to do a 10 blow off, no questions asked. You could just if you watch these things and you know what you're dealing with, the fact that it's a market leader and it's hovering around highs. It's 11:30 in the afternoon and it's still pinning on highs. You pretty much can see the writing on the wall. So I actually stopped out ahead of plan here. I made an executive decision to just cut it off. I was talking to my guys. I said, all right, I'm just going to get out of here because the 10 blow off is coming. So I'll just wait and reattack, which is what I did. We got the 10 blow off on a little bit of volume. And I probably added a little bit too much size here because then it started to come down and then it popped again. And after that, I had this idea in my head that it was a very, very crowded idea. So the second it tried to pull and pop right back, over my average and red on me, I just bailed on it immediately because this thing was trading pretty thin. There were times the spread was 7-8 cents and it would pop 10-15 cents at a time. It's had some pretty good range. So I bailed on it. Obviously, the top I shouldn't have. That was a bummer. But what are you going to do? I was about flat on it after this. I had a nice trade on it early. Then took a paper cut. So small green overall. Then I reshorted some here. I was just kind of watching the tape. If you watch the tape during this time, right around 210 to 215 area, you can see all kinds of 970 prints going off. 970 was going crazy on the level 2. So it seemed like it was soaking quite a bit. So I shorted some thinking that there was a big seller there at 70. And there was, never got higher than that. And then just 2 little scalps on it here. That's it. Nothing of value. So close this trade, very small green as well. And then that was really it. And then I'm swinging CENX. These are my entries today into the close. I have a 1540 average on it. This thing is just insane. It's up way too much. Unless Trump's building his wallet of aluminum. I don't know how this is possibly sustainable. So we'll see. So I started to swing there today. And those are the entries. And that's it. Small red day today. No problem. was all controlled.